Hello. Sorry, a little bit late again, but don't worry, it's all in it's all in hand. Anyway, welcome. It's Pro Synth Network Show Live. My name's Rob, and we're here again. It's Friday. It's just gone 7 p.m. here in the UK, and we've got lots to talk about on the show, as we always do. I hope you've had a great week. I hope you've been up to lots of good, positive things, and certainly here in the UK, enjoying some relatively fine weather. If you're on the west side of the country, if you're on the east side, then it's kind of been grey, but it's not so bad today, as you can see with the reflection on my shiny old face. I did say in the announcement for this show that Ben would be back. I lied. Well, no, I didn't lie. I was telling the truth. It's just that Ben changed his mind. I don't know. I'm at liberty to say why he's not on the show. It's a very good reason, but we'll let Ben reveal that in his own good time. But it's a very good reason. He can't make the show. He apologises. He sends his love to all his fans and followers, and hopefully he'll be back next week. But he's a very busy man, both socially and in terms of work. So good luck to him. So we've got stand-ins. And I do mean stand-ins. We've got plural. And we might need it because Kent is still waiting. Although I bet you he's probably pinged me and said, "Can I have a link, please?" Even though I sent it to him. But no, it's not there. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, Kent, if you're listening, hurry that up. Thank you. Right, what should we do? Let's do what we normally do and go through the gubbins. Please, if you do like what you see, or if you don't like what you see, click the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Either way, it's engagement and YouTube like it. If you want to make a comment during the show, then please do so. If you're watching on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, you can do that through the comments section of each respective platform. We should see it all here. If you're watching on Twitter, I don't think that links through, but you can watch us over there as well. So do please comment during the show live. We like to engage our audience, and if you want to comment after the fact, then of course you can drop them all either below the video here on YouTube or in the comments section on Facebook, or you can come and join us at the Facebook group, which is where we all tend to hang out, and or you can put your comments on Twitter as well. You can also find us not only on Twitter but also on Instagram, Facebook, and as I said, here on YouTube. If you want to ask us a question or you have a comment to make or anything like that, just stick a big capital Q in the front there, and that way we hopefully see it and we stick it in the bucket, and then we'll bring it over into the conversation as and when we can. I believe that's everything. If you want to make a donation to the channel to keep us on air, thank you very much for doing so. You can do that through Super Chat or Super Stickers in YouTube, or the thanks button if you're watching after the fact. And you can also donate through PayPal. Again, the link is below the video in the description. All donations gratefully received. And it helps us keep lubricated during the show. No, seriously, it doesn't. Having a beer tonight because I haven't got to go and pick my daughter up after the show, so that's nice. So I should be suitably refreshed throughout. Still waiting for Mr. Spong. So if anybody knows his whereabouts, I know that he was welding his doors back on to his Mustang. And when I spoke to him at lunchtime, he was going to be mounting the door on. So hopefully, if that is the case for him being late, hopefully that's going okay, and we won't have a grubby, angry, sweaty, horrible Kent Spong a little bit later on. But give him a nudge. Oh my word. Oh my word. Mr. Doctor, I always forget the doctors. Dr. Manny Fernandez. Thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful donation to the Synthfest Beer Fund. That's amazing. I think that actually deserves one of these. There we go. Thank you very much for that. If you want to press the flesh with Dr. Manny Fernandez, you can do so at Synthfest because he's coming over. So more details on that as and when we can talk about it. But yeah, there's going to be some cool stuff going down, and Manny will be in the house. So thank you very much indeed for that. That's fantastic. Don't know what else to say to that, other than let's start looking at who else we have coming on the show. Standing in for Ben his considerable, I don't know what size shoes he is. We'll give him a 9. Standing into his considerable size 9s is Mr. Jim Glue. Welcome, Jim. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I am a size 9 as well.
Oh, there you go. You fit perfectly. There
exactly.
You go. Superb. How's your week been?
It's been busy and full of stuff, including a little job tuning this Poly 6 behind me, which was a lot of fun. I'm never going to complain about tuning guitars again, though.
There you go.
Piece of cake.
Nice one. Excellent stuff. Any gigs recently? Any EMOMs or other things?
I've got one coming up on Sunday, playing in Colwyn Bay, North Wales, if anyone's around. That's at Ink Gallery, 3 p.m. till 7. Loads of different artists playing there. And then I'll be playing after that, the next one will be the Blackpool EMOM on the 16th.
Excellent. That's Jamie's one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So,
yeah, I need to come along to one of these, but they always seem to be in the north, and it's just like, by the time I've knocked off work and got up there, it's time to come home again.
Indeed.
But, maybe we should think about organising some down south. But good to have you on board, mate. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for stepping in for Ben. I know he appreciates it. Oh, Mr. David Surchek, thank you very much indeed for your $4.99 through the super sticker. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll give him, what should we give him? I'll give him a very special.
What a wanker.
There we go. Ben's not here with us physically, but he's with us in spirit. But no, thank you ever so much for that. There we go. That makes up for the rudeness. Thank you, David Surchek. Much appreciated. Right, still waiting for Kent Spong. Can we put a call out for Kent Spong? Is he around anywhere? But don't worry, because we do have somebody else. It's not just me and Jim. We've also got the wonderful Spent Kong. which conjures up images I probably don't want to think of a snow-capped Empire State Building.
No, just let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Oh, how are you, sir? How are you? And where did you get that shirt?
Where did you get that shirt? Where did you get that shirt? I got it for my birthday, and I love it. I think it's
Excellent.
A wonderful, mad thing.
Indeed, you're kind of like a pound shop Robin Vincent, aren't you?
Pound shop Robin Vincent. I'll have you know.
How are you, sir? It's been a few weeks since you've been on.
It has, yeah. It's been busy. We've been very busy. Lots of stuff going on, like you do, trying to get things sort of lined up and whatever, and editing and all that kind of stuff, building businesses and working with people and mentoring. So it's been mad, but it's been good. And I had one of those wonderful end of week flourishes where I just managed to get everything done that I wasn't expecting to. So that's why I'm here. I'm happy.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you along. So thank you for joining us, as always. And finally, from out underneath a lovely blue Mustang Mach 1, 1971, I think, it's Mr. Kent Spong.
Woo!
Here he is. Your hands look rather clean.
That one isn't.
How are you, sir?
I've just been, since 6:30, been fighting a Mac Mini.
Oh, right. Not a Mac 1.
Yeah. Fingers crossed that it will continue to function.
Oh, is this what you're on now?
Yeah.
You're brave.
Yeah, it seems to
And maybe stupid.
Well, I hit it really hard.
Okay.
And it seems to be working. It seems to be okay.
When are you just going to get that Mac Studio?
Soon.
Oh, come on, sort it.
I know.
It's there, and still the monitor is in the same place.
Right there.
It's got, that monitor is gathering dust on the top, and we can see it from here.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty bad, isn't it?
Terrible. Anyway, how have you been? Did you get the door hung?
I did. And I
Yay.
got the wing back on and everything else that was required. And
Nice.
she's a happy girl. Just got to do the other side now.
Okay,
So you are well hung.
Indeed. Well, at least the door is anyway.
Ah.
So don't a lot of people walk while talking to people on mobile phones?
It really, as in like holding the phone in front of their face and not to their ear.
Or they're on the Bluetooth. And
they're
talking away and they go, they talk to me. So,
Yeah.
yeah. It's sort of like, angry women with pushchairs.
I would love to know why this trend has emerged of mainly young people walking around holding the phone with their the person on the other end on loudspeaker. I don't want to hear your conversation.
I do.
Well, yeah, I suppose it could be fun, but I don't need to hear that. I just don't get it.
I mean, honest to God, it's not a racist comment or anything, but literally, out of 10 people going by, one of them speaking English,
right,
and the others a whole host of languages.
Well, what a wonderful, colourful world we
Yeah,
live in.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got absolutely no problem with that at all. It's like, wow,
Well, yeah, you can
just people talking into their phones all the time, or just walking along talking into their phones.
I don't get that. Just put it to your ear, or just use a Bluetooth. I mean, yeah, it's disconcerting when you see somebody walking towards you.
Well, it was quite funny because a woman went by here she must have had a Bluetooth headset and or she was shouting at her baby. It was one or the other.
It makes it really difficult to spot mad people anymore.
Yeah, how do you know?
Yeah.
Shouting,
Yeah.
shouting
Well,
is
no,
just-
that's easy. I mean, the mad person is the one working on the bloody Mac 1 in the driveway, not the people walking by.
I often talk to myself a lot in the car, but now I don't worry about it so much because people probably think I'm just having a conversation with somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
Well, this time it's just me.
Well, one thing that has become apparent. Fiona helped me put the door on because it's so heavy. So it's all gone on, it's all fitted and everything like that. And then she's looking at the car and she's going, "Is it all right if we get it wrapped?"
Oh.
I went, "What? Have you got anything in mind?" She went, "You know that wrap that is a different colour no matter where you're standing, and it can go from green to purple to blue to gold." And I went, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, I went to there's a wrap place up in Chessington." She says, "And I just popped in and I asked." And
Jeez.
I go, "You want to get her wrapped?"
No.
And she's really keen. She's really keen.
No.
And I go,
No, that's a classic blue. That. It's,
oh yeah, no, but here's the beautiful thing about wrap: it comes
You
off.
can take it off. Yeah, no, but still, I wouldn't want to be seen in a car. That's just
Might help
too...
hold it together.
It
Well,
does. It will.
Yeah.
No, honest to God, it is a running battle. This is not the country to have a Mac 1, and
True.
we thought we'd hang on to her for about a couple of years anyway, and so I thought, yeah, and it protects the paint, and they gave her all the spiel about that and everything like that. So, okay, and I've got it was resprayed apparently about 10 years ago, and they don't know what the colour is because it's not actually official Mustang Grabber Blue, because I got a can mixed up and we put it on and went, no,
No, that's not it.
that's not the colour. So it might be the best of both worlds to
Could be. Well,
do that instead. So
anyway, glad you got your doors hung.
yeah, okay.
All good stuff, and that you got here as well, so that's cool.
Yes, I am
right.
here.
We're getting complaints. We're not talking about synths enough. We're talking about cars far too much.
We're not talking about synths at all.
No, exactly. So
Absolutely.
let's crack in because we've got a wonderful selection of news topics to discuss today, and I'm just trying to think what should we start with. I think let's start with the Akai MPC One. The Akai Professional MPC One Plus. So they did the plus thing to the other one. I can't remember what the MPC XL, wasn't it? They did an upgraded version of that just recently. They've done the same to the MPC One now, the MPC One Plus, and it just gives you a little bit extra. It's only $699. This is actually is a pretty appealing price. It's complete
US.
US dollars. So that's probably going to be less UK.
Yeah.
Unless they do that horrible thing where they match it, which is terrible. But it comes built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, 16 gig of onboard storage, which I believe is increased over the last one. Better speed and efficiency. They've also launched Air Jura, which is a plug-in that is a Juno clone, shall we say. That, I think you can choose that. When you buy it, you choose one of these synths that you've got here. You can choose Jura or OPX4. Of course, everybody would want that because it's FM. Or a stage piano or organ or stuff. You can stick all those in there as well. By the way, that plugin is available for other platforms. But yeah, this is, according to them, it features the core performance of the flagship MPCX, but now with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth for instantly downloading plugins and wireless updates, 16 gig of storage, advanced sampling engine, 128 tracks of sequencing, 8 audio tracks to capture recordings and more, and it's a lovely shiny red case. Who doesn't like a nice red case? So yeah, they've just kind of done the revamp to this as they have done with previous models. I wonder if the Force is going to get a plus at some point. Who knows? But any thoughts on this? I mean, I always think it's great now that MPCs are back, because they went away for a while and Machina kind of took over, didn't it? And lots of other things. But I do like, although I never fully got the paradigm of the MPC, it wasn't for me. I fully appreciate the amazing things that people can do with them. So it's always nice to see them back in there. But any particular thoughts on this one? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Go on then.
Yeah, this looks really decent for the money. Yeah, so that's probably going to end up being somewhere between 620 and 650 Great British pounds. Yeah, that's a decent bit of kit. It doesn't have an internal battery, does it?
Don't think
as in,
so.
Like, you have to use it on the mains because of the power requirements.
Yeah.
And it's probably a bit too power hungry to run off a power bank as well, which is a bit of a shame.
I would have thought, yeah.
That'd
12
be
12 volt,
cool.
3 amp.
3 amp, yeah, so 36 watts. That's a bit steep, isn't it, for most things? That'd be a really good unit if it was, sort of truly portable as well.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a decent unit. If I hadn't already got into the whole Electron thing, I'd probably look at that.
But what I do like about the fact with these new MPCs is that the connectivity at the back is there's something for everyone. You've got CV and gate. You've got 8 of those, or 4 sockets, but 2 per. You've got regular MIDI in and out. You've got USB host and device as well. So for something that's going to be sort of let's say conservatively 650. This is a whole lot of machine on its own, but then the fact that you can connect this to pretty much anything you want, MIDI wise or CV gate wise. Hello, Eurorack people. This could actually be a really powerful tool at a very, very good price. What do you reckon, Andrew?
I was using the one of the first MPCs when it came out. I was doing a lot of beta testing way back in the day.
Beats testing.
No, beta testing. Yeah, beats. I was using it in the ASQ10, and we went out and did live gigs with it. We did a whole bunch of really unique stuff. So I was part of the dev team, and it's always held a special place in my heart, but also in the hearts of lots of people. The couple of weeks ago when we were doing the Super Booth, when you were in Super Booth, and we had Ty on, he was talking about, which made a lot of sense. He said there are some synths that are just desirable because they, it's the package. I think we were talking about the Oberheim particularly, and he said, the new Oberheim is a great thing, but the desktop version not quite so, because it's not the same thing. And one's desirable and the other's kind of, that was his thing. The thing about the MPC is it's always had that level of desirability. And I know now of at least 3 people that have lusted after an MPC forever, but they were always just a bit too expensive or a bit too old, and will they carry on working? All of them are going to be buying this, all of them. And that says everything you need to know. And it looks like a great unit. I may even get one myself, and I've got lots of these things.
No, it does seem like a really good value for money package, which this day and age is always very much appreciated. Ken, have you ever got into your MPCX? or is it still sat there
I
gathering?
got into it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then fell down this rabbit hole and then sort of like lost my way. And I mean to go back and have another crack at it. So yeah, I mean, this is good because it's. I mean, if it's entry, even as an entry level unit, it's good pricing and everything.
Yeah, I mean the spec doesn't scream entry level at all. I mean it really is.
No, not at all, not at all.
Yeah. But the price does.
But the price does, yeah. Because I mean the X was what 17, 18, something like that.
I think the I/O on it is just, it screams. They've really given this some thought, haven't they?
Yes.
And they've put everything in there that you need to be able to work with just about anything and everything else. They've really thought this one through.
Yeah.
It's clever. It's clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've obviously realised that there is a massive, Eurorack revolution, if you like, going on out there. So having the CV and gates shoved on the back is, caters for everybody. And for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So if the MPC way of doing things appeals, or you're already in that and you're looking maybe for something to take out and about, or because you can see this is completely standalone, but also can be connected to pretty much anything you want to connect it to. It could be a one-stop shop, and certainly your gateway into that whole kind of MPC world, which I think once you're in and sold on the concept, I think you pretty much stay there. So yeah, good to see.
689, by the way.
UK.
UK. Gear for Music, I've got it at 689.
Still,
Juno.
You'll probably be able to find that 650 some places. So, but even so, 689. That's not awful, is it? When you think what you're getting,
No.
And how that can connect to what everything, whatever else you've got. That's not bad.
Actually, saying that, Steve Elbows has pointed out that the original MPC one was that sort of price anyway.
Yeah. But now you're getting more for that money, which is.
Yeah.
Do we know if the CV is just out? Or does it convert on the way in as well, allow you to convert into MIDI? Because that would be really cool. I doubt it, but...
Specs. Here we go. Connections. Outputs.
Outputs, okay.
Yeah, outputs only. You got audio inputs, TRS. You've got headphones. There's an SD card slot in there as well. You've got 5-pin MIDI in and MIDI out. 4 TRS CV gate jacks with 8 outputs total. Then USB Type A, Type B. So yeah, just outputs on that. That would have been nice, but I suppose you're asking a little.
You'll have to use a converter, put it
Probably a
back into the
teensy
MIDI.
bit much, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, 2 gig of RAM, 16 gig of storage with over 7.8 gig available for user storage. So that's a pretty healthy
That's
amount.
not bad.
It's not bad at all. So there you go. Right, that's the Akai, or if you're in America, the Akai. I must one day actually get like official confirmation from somebody original. I'll speak to David Caldwell. He'll tell me. Caulfield, sorry, yes. Speak to him because he'll know. Before we move on to the next thing, I need to say a big thank you to our lovely friend over there in Ireland, BG Ollie. Some beer money to celebrate Kent wearing the classiest tee ever, and Robbie finally using a real door. Yes, quite. What's on your T-shirt, Kent? I didn't see. Is it rude?
It's Simon.
It's that. Let's have a look at that. Let's get a close-up of that. This is, of course, Ollie's friend. Suck on these notes. Very good. I'm going to have to get one of those. Excellent. If you want one of those, I'm sure Ollie will tell you in the chat somewhere where to find those. And let's also say a massive thank you to my new friend who I actually met in person, Carl Bedford, €10. Thank you towards Ben's Dementia Fund. We're going to need a lot more of that. So thank you anyway.
10 quid, yeah.
Yes. Anyway, that's fantastic. Over there in Belgium, I believe. Thank you very, very, very much. Right, let's just remove those. Otherwise, I think that we've already done them. Hide that. That's gone. Lovely. Right. Let's get rid of that. What should we do next? Let's have a look through my lovely little list. Let's stay on beat-making machine themes. This is something new from Inphonik. Inphonik did a little thing a while back. They did a 4-operator FM synth based on the YM2612 Yamaha chip that was found in things like the Sega Mega Drive and other things. Then they did this thing that emulated the filter of an Akai S950 sampler, and that seemed to be very popular. Now they've gone and made a software version of the EMU SP1200, and this is the new RX1200.
The SP1200 is one of the most influential samplers of the late 80s. Created by Dave Rossum and released by EMU Systems in 1987, the SP1200 is famous for its gritty 12-bit sound and is widely acclaimed as a revolutionary piece of hardware that helped the emergence of hip-hop and house music in the 90s. Now's the time to experience the sound of a true legend. Introducing the RX1200 by Inphonik, a 12-bit sampler instrument available as VST, audio unit, AAX, and rack extension for Windows, macOS, and Linux.
Rather than making a one-to-one copy of the original hardware, we've designed the RX1200 as a more straightforward instrument with an easy learning curve. By removing the onboard sequencer and simplifying the workflow, we've built our vision of an audio plugin that integrates flawlessly with any DAW to replicate the legendary sound with the character, the crunch, and the warmth of the original in an easy-to-use interface. Making beats with the RX1200 is quick and easy. Import your samples across 32 slots to create beats and music parts. Use the faders to tune your sounds, balance your mix, and adjust the decay like the real thing. Adjust the SSM filter modes. Speed up your samples and tune down the pitch to enjoy the most loved lo-fi sound of the SP1200. The RX1200 is ready to become your new go-to sampler for your lo-fi tracks.
We made no compromise with the sound, yet we took the liberty to add extended features. Unlimited sample length, mono and stereo sample playback, panning knobs, chromatic play mode, polyphonic channels, a visual non-destructive sample editor, and a great factory collection of samples and presets to start playing with out of the box, with new free collections to come.
Play with the sound of a true legend
with the RX1200 by Inphonik.
I've got to say, I was bloody impressed by this. I bought this straight away because I have a real thing about the SP1200, and I've wanted one. And the originals are quite expensive. The Dave Rossum remakes are incredibly expensive. There is, of course, and I want to give a shout out to our friend Brad at Isla Instruments. He's done the S2400, which is effectively an SP1200 on acid, and it's just incredible. It's an incredible machine and very reasonably priced for what it does. But this is 25 quid, and it's a plug-in, and it gets rid of the sequencer because you don't really need that these days. You just drop it into your DAW and away you go. But they've added so much so many wonderful things to this, such as the stereo sampling, the unlimited sample length, the sample editing, the polyphony per channel. I mean, it's just an incredible achievement, and I've been playing with this, and it's great fun. Drag and drop the samples and just start going. If you connect up a little something like the Korg Nano Control with the 8 faders, it's just fun, which is what it should be. And as to how well it compares to the original sonically, I mean, they do have a sonic comparison video. If that's anything to go by, then yes, it sounds very, very, very close. But it's 25 quid, and for 35 you can get a pack with the whatever they call it, their S950 filter, which is called RX950, which is basically not a filter, the AD converter. It's a completely different thing. But yeah, you can get a bundle with that for 35 quid. based in France, small business. Not only is it VST and audio units and AAX, but it's also Windows, Mac, and Linux, which will hopefully please a lot of people. They do them. Oh, they also do them in rack extensions. And if you bought one in one format and you need it now in another format, so say you were in Reason and you're using it as a rack extension, and now you want to have a VST or an audio unit version, drop them a line and they will send you that version free of charge. So you just buy what you need, and then you get all the versions of it if you need it. So there you go. I'm going to go to our resident EMU expert, aficionado, and ex-employee, and ask him what he thinks of this. Andy.
Yes, it sounds good. It looks good as a piece of software. At the price, it's ridiculously cheap. The extra functionality is good. But coming back to the conversation from 2 weeks ago with Ty, is it desirable? For me, no. I get why people will want it. I really will. Mm-hmm. I've got lots of other bits and pieces, but the whole thing with the 1200 was the hands-onness of it, how fast you flew around it. So whilst I get it, it's the same conversation we had 2 weeks ago almost, which is if you want it, want the sound, you can have it, you can do that. But it's the way you work with the 1200, which I liked a lot. And, I've got a load of different things, but that particular way of working was so simple. It was mad. I get that you'll like this, Robbie, and I get lots and lots of people will, but and I like to support small businesses, but I don't think I'll be buying it because I've got things that cover this off all over the place, and I miss the heart. The whole point for me of this, like with the MPC, is the way you interact with it physically. Yeah. So Absolutely, and it'd be like if someone bought out an MPC software, the software MPC, why? So I get it, but not particularly for me. It sounds good. It looks like it's a lot of fun, but not for me.
Yeah. No, I totally get that hands-on thing, which is why I. Oh, hang on, we got some echo there. Who's got their speakers on? So yeah, I still want to buy Brad's S2400. I just need to save some pennies. So yeah, I still want that hands-on experience, and the S2400 is absolutely the best way to get that kind of whole 1200 experience these days, with all the bells and whistles, and of course all the old stuff as well. So I think this is not going to put Brad out of business at all. But I think for £26, it's 26.
It's just a stunning price, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer really. And it works across all platforms. Although I do see people complaining that there's not an iOS version of it. Well, you never know. But lots of people say, "Oh, there's nothing on Linux." Well, this is on Linux as well, and it's on VST audio units, AAX rack extensions. It covers the gamut for £26, and if you buy the bundle, it's only 35. So yeah, I think it's great. Jim, any love for this kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, again, I get what Andrew's saying about the fact that it's kind of like the sequence drum machine without the sequence interface, etc., and physical interface. But I think just as like a sample pack, this is pretty incredible. It sounds really, really good. Totally up my street. I would, just throw this into a DAW and just sort of make some beats with it and throw that into the Digitact and stuff. It's. I think it's, for that sort of money, it is a no-brainer really. But yeah, I was just listening to some of the, kick and snare samples, and I'm like, they're really nice.
Yeah, it's got that proper grit, isn't it?
Yeah, just lovely. Really sort of, yeah.
They have modelled the filters and the converters really, really nicely. I'm no expert. I can't say how faithful it is to the original, and I would love if somebody has an original, or even somebody who's got the S2400 and puts it into the that 26-bit mode, 26 kilohertz mode, to see what they how it compares. But again, for £26. If it's not quite there, it's still good enough. And as you say, you can use this and put your samples in them, process, and we don't have to use them as in a thing. Just output those samples into something else and use it. It's just the fact that you can actually run your stuff and process it through really good emulations of the original hardware. Ken, I don't imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I don't imagine this is necessarily up your street in terms of a usable instrument in your music making world. But do you have any thoughts on this? And
does it mean I don't have to repair SB 1200s anymore?
Well,
Maybe.
It might do.
In that case, I love it.
There you go. I was going to say, do you get much of this kind of, those sort of things in? Because I imagine the people that own SP 1200s, for them, it's a very prized possession because
yeah, absolutely,
in certain genres, it's the almighty, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's that sound, that workflow.
So the next person that comes in with an SP 1200, you're going to give them a free license for this and say, there you go, we've turned it into software. Bye.
Yeah. Do you know what? I would make a dumb controller for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this
idea.
It is for some. Well, I mean, I was going to say again, I don't want to do Brad out of any business, but if somebody was to come up with a controller, because as Andrew points out, it wasn't just the sound; it was the workflow.
That's the obvious part that is missing. But that has been, any sort of plug-in has always been where you lose out. So
and Jim did make a very, very good point though, which was it's not bad value for a sample pack, right? And some of those samples are really those samples are really iconic. So getting those sounding like that as if it's coming out. Yeah. There's going to be an awful lot of people that would just buy it like that, and the fact that it happens to have a whole SP 1200 front end, as it were. That's at that money. I'm still. So I may be changing my mind.
It does come. It comes rammed with a whole bunch of libraries in there, and as they said in that trailer there, there's going to be loads more. I mean, the factory collection contains, and I'm going to read this, 900 plus samples built into 50 presets, which include 122 kicks, 139 snares, 169 hi-hats, 47 toms, 32 cymbals, 120 percussion instruments, 50 effects, 32 bass, 41 keys, 151 slices, and 33 others. That's really a band for dancing.
You know what it needs, though? You know what it needs?
Go on.
More cowbell.
More cowbells. More cowbells, absolutely. So loads of new sample packs arriving, and apparently all for free and sorted into different themed packages. So again, just the investment gets better and better.
Yeah.
Thank you to our moderators. I want to say thanks to Andrew Brooks and to Ben from Musings, and of course Andy Synth Addict, who as ever are managing the chat. Not that there's much to manage, but what they are doing is they're putting links up to all of these things in the chat, so you can go and click on those and buy these things. And I want to say, if there is any chance during that purchase process that you can say to the manufacturer, the developer, we saw this on ProSynth Network. So all you got to say, that would do us a big favour. Not that we get any kickbacks, but it might just kind of increase our profile a little bit. Yeah, just say where you heard it first. So yeah, there you go. Small plug-in there. Plug-in. See what I did there? See what I did? Yes, doesn't get any better. Yeah, that deserves oh, it didn't work. There we go. Right, so we've done the Akai, we've done the RX1200. Let's do another plugin, or should I say a sample library, but it's more of an instrument than just a sample library. This is utterly fantastic, and I love what these guys do, and I'm always going to be bigging them up. Let me just first of all bring up their webpage so I'm ready to go, and then I'm going to play you a demonstration video so that you get a feel for this wonderful new library from our friends at Acoustic Samples in France. This is the new Acoustic Samples library, V Wins. So that is V-Wins from Acoustic Samples. This is, I think, now the 3rd edition in their, should we say, classical instrument sample libraries. This features double reeds, so oboe, English horn, contrabassoon, and regular bassoon. But there's also different versions. So there's a bass clarinet in there as well. There's about 7 different individual instruments that have all been sampled, but use physical modelling to give the real level of expression and articulation in there. As you can see from some of these images, it's not just the instruments and the variations of the playing performance, but the mic positioning, the positioning within an orchestra, so you can just place the instrument at any one of these seating positions and you will then get the microphone settings for that particular thing. You can adjust the room size, you can adjust the stereo width. There's loads of preferences that you can go and mess around with. You can play these from wind controllers, MIDI wind controllers as well, and it's just utterly amazing. And I was playing with this the other day, and as I always say about these guys' libraries, is it makes you actually feel that you've got some musical skill even when you haven't, because just by simply playing the notes and using the mod wheel and velocity, you get so much expression out of this thing with so little effort, but it's all you that's doing it. It's just utterly brilliant, and they're pretty damn affordable as well. The intro price for the entire pack is €149. It's normally 199. You can, of course, buy these individually for about €79 each if you don't want the whole lot. But I don't get the economics there. You know, 2 of these is the price of the whole thing. I don't know. I can't say enough good things about these people and what they do, because every time they bring out, like the last one was the brass, and then before that we had cello. Was it cellos? I can't remember now. Trumpet, saxophones. Yeah, there was a brass section, saxophones, trumpets. They're stunning, and they just blow me away every time. Kent, you like a good orchestral type of library. Does this appeal?
Bought it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Well, the thing about Acoustic Samples is, with their libraries, how do I put this into words? When you load the libraries in, although there are lots of setting up you can do to it, like you say, with the positioning and mics and all the rest of it, the key thing about it is that when you use them, as soon as you've loaded them in, there's nothing else you have to do to the samples. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, like if you were using, there are some Spitfire solos like on the BBC Orchestra one. When you load in the samples, there is a certain degree of EQing and stuff to do to them to make them fit in realistically. But the acoustic sample ones don't seem to require it. They seem to just work and they fit. So I've always loved this stuff. But I heard this and I went, there's something there.
Yeah. They do there's another video on their website and also on their YouTube channel where they actually take they've done 2 identical performances, one of a player playing the actual instrument and then one playing it through the sample library, and they basically follow the same piece of sheet music, so it's performed exactly the same way, and they do this A/B switching, and it's virtually impossible to tell when you have to kind of look to see which one it actually is playing.
I could
it's
tell.
So close.
I could really tell. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sort of disagree with you both here in that I was unconvinced by this. I've got a feeling that of all the instruments to try and emulate well, woodwind has probably got to be the most difficult. There was just certain kind of so if their demo was really good and well put together, because they even had the breath noises in there for their virtual instrument version, which helped sort of create that sort of sense. But there was just, I'm not sure if it's just some sort of lack of non-linearities or something. There was just something kind of missing in the expression or something. And you could, I could tell, what was the real player and what was the library. I think in a full orchestra, probably you wouldn't notice, or in the full composition, but when you're dealing with an instrument on its own, I think it becomes quite clear. But that could be down to other things as well, as to sort of how the sort of the reverb of the room, etc. could be, you could convince someone more that you're in a real space, just so it could just be like psychoacoustic effects. But on their demos, I thought they're very brave to do that. So hats off to them. I think they've taken on something that's an immensely difficult challenge, trying to emulate woodwind like that, even though it's sort of sample based.
That's a fair point.
I think with possibly with MPE, with say an Osmos or something like that, I think that would take it to another level in terms of trying to sort of get that real organic feeling that a player would have, and that expression and all that sort of weird stuff that just naturally happens.
Yeah. I mean, these do support MPE as well as wind controllers, so maybe with those things they'll sound even better than anything you play. If you play a guitar library or any kind of library with a keyboard, you're not gonna. It's just very difficult to get that whole key switching thing down to pat. But
this is probably where it differs then, because when I was playing them, I was using Hydra and Roly, and it does it. I agree with you, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
So if you see what I mean, so I'm talking about it in the full on being able to control
really
it the way I want.
Using very simply with the interfaces that you've got already.
If I was using it with a Beat Step Pro or something like that, I'd agree.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, because I recently took delivery of a Modal X, and that's got a big set of sounds on it, and I was going through some of the orchestral sounds on there, and I've got the headphones on it. These sound kind of nice, but then when you put them up against something like this, they pale into insignificance, because this has way more obviously a bigger library than what's on a workstation type synth. So these they're certainly way better than using a stock set of presets on a hardware synth or something, but they're still obviously not going to be exactly the same. But certainly for the price and the fact that these are all UVI based, so you can use the free UVI workstation. You don't need anything else. It won't cost you anything else other than that. The price of the library is pretty good.
I think
any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to applaud anyone that pulls together something that has the degree of articulation it does have. I get Jim's thinking on this as well, but and yours and Kent's thoughts. I think it's a really odd one. I think this is a really good thing. I'm not sure I'll be getting it, because I've kind of got it covered, and I don't use these kind of instruments that much. But their entire library, they've given so much thought to the articulation. And whilst Jim's right, playing it solo as a solo instrument straight up front, I can hear where it's not really, there's something about it that's not quite right. But as soon as you start adding the articulation in using either an Osmos or a Hydra or whatever, it seems to really sort of come to life. And I think they've given it a huge amount of thought. And as Kent said, once you start bedding it in, or no, I think it was Jim said, once you start bedding it into an orchestral piece or as one of several instruments, you don't really hear it. And it does seem, Kent said, it does seem to sit really comfortably. All of their stuff sits really comfortably in the track. Once you start blending it in with other things, they just kind of drop straight in. It's level. You're not dicking around with EQ and stuff. So, I love the fact that they've done it. I'm not sure I'll be using it much, if at all. But I think the way they've gone about doing this, and I know what it's like putting together proper sample libraries, and especially classical ones from when we did the Virtuoso 2000. And you learn a lot from that. And what these guys have done is actually quite extraordinary. It really is quite extraordinary.
And at that price point, I think it's a really 149 euros for effectively 7 instruments with all of that capability. And if you have got an MPE keyboard or a breath controller, it just takes on even more. So there you go. Acoustic Samples. V-Winds Double Reeds is the name of that pack. It's available at acousticsamples.net. I believe the chaps have put the link in the chat for us already. Before we move on, I do want to say I was speaking to Arno, who is the guy I speak to at Acoustic Samples the other day, and he told me that he is recovering from surgery on his ACL. And he's been out of action for a good few months, and he will be out of action for a few months more. And this is somebody who plays tennis 6 to 9 hours a week. He's chomping at the bit, shall we say, but he's spending a lot of that time working on stuff like this and other things that they have in the pipeline. So if you're watching, Arno, hope you feel better soon, mate, and congratulations on this. It's I think it's universally liked, with some reservations here or there. But yeah, I like it, mate. Don't worry. So there you go.
Hats off to them. Hats off.
Absolutely.
It's like.
And if you haven't already checked out the rest of their stuff, there are some free examples on there if you want to start checking these things out. But yeah, I convinced Kent to get their C7 Grand library, and I know Kent's very, very fussy in particular about his piano libraries, and you rate that quite highly, don't you?
Yeah, I love it. But
yeah, and their guitars. Their guitars are really good. They do a great Gibson. I think it's called the Gibson Sunbird library. But yeah, it's just it's very clever scripting on these things. They really do go in for that very, very well. Anyway, there you go. That is Acoustic Samples, V-Winds Double Reeds. Right, what shall we have a look at? Oh, I'll tell you what, again, we're kind of segue nicely into something that's similar kind of thing. It's a wind instrument of sorts. It's the new thing from Labs, and I'm not going to try and pronounce the name just yet. I'm going to practice while you watch this video. Uilleann pipes?
Uilleann
pipes?
Uilleann.
Right, thank you.
Uilleann,
I was going to say, Kent, being of Irish descent, could you tell us?
We need BG Ollie.
I wouldn't. Oh,
Ollie, can you give us a phonetic example of that?
Because seriously, and Scottish bagpipes, Irish bagpipes, just no. Just
really?
No, okay?
Like accordions. Yeah.
At least accordions are a little easier on Uilleann.
Uilleann.
Yeah, no, it's... I know it's free, but no.
No?
No.
Not for you?
Oh, God, no. I mean, it just reminds me of Celine Dion and... just...
yeah, I suppose.
Just die in a skip somewhere, will you? Oh, God.
Oh, dear.
Bagpipes, really? It's not my area. It's not me. No. But it sounds lovely. Don't get me wrong. But it's like no.
Okay. Well,
even Black Hole Reverb couldn't save that.
Fine.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
that's
harsh, I suppose, but yeah. Made in conjunction with the wonderful Hannah Peel, who used these apparently, or did she use the pipes or the sampled instrument in a National Theatre production a while back? It's another freebie from Labs that sits in with all of their wild and wonderful things that they do. They always kind of go a little bit left field. Andrew Brooks has told us it's pronounced Uilleann, so we've got a bit of a thing going on here.
Like my auntie Eileen.
Yeah, I think fight.
If you squeeze
on,
those, they make that noise as well.
Yeah, come on, Eileen. Anyway,
well, not now.
Longhurst.
I really. The funny thing is, unlike Mr. Spong, I love the pipes. I didn't used to, but I've got them. The kind of got it. I've got a pal of mine who plays all sorts of different pipes, the Northumbrian and Highland, and he's also got a hurdy-gurdy and all sorts of weird instruments. And I've got sample libraries with them in. The sample libraries just don't do justice to it. They really don't. And it's the kind of instrument you spend a lifetime or a very long time learning to get to be able to play them well and be able to emote rather than just honk, rather than just meh. But when you find someone that can play them well, it's a brilliant thing, and you can use them in all sorts of different ways. I think this library, free as well. Again, this is another one where the articulation and the way they've put this together, the samples themselves, they're beautiful. They're really good. Where you use it is another matter again, and how you use it. But I really like the sounds, and I think they've done a really good job. And it's nothing; it's free.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll have 6.
It's an acquired taste, obviously, but it's also it has a limited use, I guess.
Uilleann cables.
Yeah.
Sounded like a traffic jam.
Yeah. It has, I guess, a limited use, but if you're wanting to go that way, these are there, and they're there for free. Any thoughts on this, Jim?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be your controversial guest tonight, to be honest, because I'm still boycotting Spitfire audio.
Okay.
Over the Christian, Ensign thing. Even though he's resigned as a director, etc., he's still a major shareholder in the company and still, making money out of Spitfire audio. So I'm just kind of like, until, any point he sells his shares and is no longer connected with the company, I don't want anything to do with it. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
We won't be making any money. Yeah, but you won't be making any money out of you for this one.
Well, no. No, but again, it's like it promotion, etc. If I said I was using whatever product or whatever, it's still word of mouth. So I don't want anything to do with them.
Fair enough, not a problem at all. Yep. So that's available now, free with your Labs instrument. If you've got the Spitfire app, you just open it up, it'll be there, and you can just download it, or you can go and download the Spitfire app and do that yourself. Use their own little lovely interface. There you go. Right, what should we do next? Let's see what's on my list here. We've done that one. Let's get into something I know that Jim does like, and that's this. I'm going to have the pronunciation police on my back for this, and I'm fully expecting Andrew Brooks to give me a kick up the backside if I get this wrong. So I'm assuming this is Tegeler, and it's the round Machina. which is a software version of their hardware of this very same thing. And Jim, when Jim said he can come on the show, he said, "Oh, can we talk about this?" I said, "I've never bleeding heard of it." So over to you, Jim. Tell us all about this and why this is good.
Okay, so if you're not familiar with Tegler Audio, they do sort of some quite high-end but affordable hardware processors, including sort of compressors, EQs, and generally sort of make everything sound nice sort of devices. Usually sort of Pultec style kind of stuff. And the only plugins they've done so far are some of their hardware actually has motorized pots, so you can do like true recall. Right. So there'll be like a plug-in version of the hardware, and you just do your set. You can control it all from the plug-in, and in your sweet spot while you've got the actual hardware in your rack somewhere. So you can. It's really good sort of system they've got. But I've always considered all their stuff way out of my price range. You can actually get everything from them on a 14-day trial, which is very dangerous. They'll just ship it to you for 14 days, and I imagine most people don't send stuff back. But this is their first actual sort of DSP based plugin, and it's based on their sort of hardware reverb. Where it differs is the actual hardware's got a valve input and output stage and transformers in there, which obviously is really quite pleasant, and you get some nice auto harmonics and warms the sound up a bit. So with this, I was like, I kind of knew it was only the DSP part of their reverb machine. I thought, well, how good is it going to be? I'd seen the demos of their hardware reverb, which literally just walked all over Bricasti M7, in my opinion. It made the Bricasti sound like a plug-in, which is quite something, because Bricasti is held up as one of the best studio reverbs out there. So this was on pre-order without any demo other than what they'd sort of posted, which I didn't think that piano demo was particularly interesting.
No.
Or, it just really didn't show anything off. But I took a punt on it and did the pre-order, because, you get entered into a raffle for one of their $2,000 processors as well. Yeah. I just thought, I bet this reverb is going to be good, and I've not been disappointed. It's one of the best, most natural sounding, usable. It's a really usable reverb for like sort of. It just enables you to, even though it's completely algorithmic, there's no modelling in there. It just allows you to sort of create very real sounding spaces that you can actually picture yourself being in, and with different surface materials, like really metallic sort of surfaces and stuff. It's really, really good, really interesting. And, for sort of, what's about 70 quid it worked out at. I thought it was worth a punt. And to be honest, I think it's going to be like my go-to reverb for anything that isn't just a shimmer.
It does sound. It's kind of nice to hear a reverb that is just a reverb and has not gone all shimmer on us, because we've seemed to have had a glut of those. As nice as shimmer reverb can be, it's just a little bit too much. I have to say, I'm completely oblivious to the software or the hardware. I'd never heard of these. Effects are not my strong point.
They were at Super Booth, but I didn't get a chance to look over their stuff.
So the hardware version of this is slightly different. Obviously, it's to €2,700, I believe, but this is just part of that extracted for just the reverb. And as you said, for every 100 pre-orders, they were giving away one free cream unit.
The EQ unit,
yeah. So I guess you didn't get one of those, or you don't know.
I don't know. I doubt it.
It'd be interesting. But I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that's what, 1,700 quid or euros. So that's a pretty good incentive to buy anyway. But no, it's a lovely sounding reverb. Although, like you say, the demo wasn't hugely informative. But you say there's a 14-day trial.
No, that's on their hardware.
Oh, that's on the hardware. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Is there a trial on the software? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't think I've seen one.
No, it doesn't say. But it's out now. It came out yesterday officially, didn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be my go-to. I can just see it. It's just really, you can just place things in it. and it just sits in the space, and it's not sort of taking over. I can just, I can see that I can create really good, wholesome sort of mixes just using this reverb. Definitely. Amazing.
Yeah. Mr. Longhurst, any thoughts on this one?
Well, it was new to me as well. I've heard of Tegler before, but I wasn't aware of the reverb at all, and certainly not as software. And so I bought it. I bought it between 4:30 and now. I bought it. I adore it. I've got Black Hole as well. Black Hole, I love it. Does a particular, it has a sound to it. The Black Hole is a very, very good thing. This sings. I think Jim's right. This feels real for some reason. The Black Hole feels like it's a, it's a lovely sound, but it's not real. But it's a lovely, lovely sound. This actually just sings, and if you put it onto the, some of the longer settings, it's just glorious. You don't even have to have an awful lot of it. You just leave it there, and it's singing away. And Jim's right. You can place stuff with it, and you can play around with materials. I love it. I think like Jim, I'm probably going to be turning to this often. It's a lovely thing.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, it also sits in a mix really well, because that's also, once you put something through a reverb, you go, that sounds nice soloed, and you bring up the rest of the mix, you go, look, it actually sits really well. It sits really, really well. I like it a lot.
Yeah, well, that's two positive things. Kent, can you complete a happy trio? Does this appeal?
Only when I realised it was a video for a reverb. To start with, I thought it was just some random TikTok you put up of somebody trying to drown a piano. I had no idea. I was going, what am I watching? But I got it. Yeah, I'm in the end. Yeah, I got there. Well, I'm looking for a replacement for RAM.
Okay.
And Black Hole and all the others and the 244s, you use them to death, and it's like, could we try something else?
Yeah.
And it seems like, like Andrew said, it was quite singy. I'd like to put the 80 through it and see what it sounds like as well.
Oh, yes, that would be nice.
And I'm just looking at, I'm just at the website now, so it's like, was it 99?
You can still get a deal on it for 79.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Oh, there you go. So, is it German?
I believe so.
Okay. I said I was in the UK, but he goes, no, you'll have to learn the German to buy the product. Okay.
Yeah, Berlin based.
Yeah, so it is.
Yeah.
So I think I'm having this.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, new reverb comes out. I'm there.
Do you know what? I was like, I don't need any more reverbs. I've got the Super Plate from Sound Toys recently, and I've not got all the Valhalla stuff, but I've got a lot of Valhalla stuff.
Yeah.
I thought I'm covered, but then I heard this and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not covered at all. This is amazing. It's like this does things that none of the others do.
We've got the UADs. I've got reverbs coming out of the wazoo. It's not a problem at all.
No, this is special. Yeah.
I threw it over a guitar. One of my pals. I've got some. I don't play guitar myself, or rather, I do badly, so I don't.
What's a guitar?
It's just going over a Strat, and it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It just hangs. There's something about it.
It's amazing on vocals as well. It's just I
haven't tried it on vocals yet.
Yeah,
but I will.
Really good.
I love the way that Kent says, "What's a guitar?" and just to his right.
Is that what it is?
I like the way your camera did the shock move then.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's a plug-in.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a stringy twing thing. Yeah.
Stringy twing thing.
It's a string on it.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's what I used for killing the rats.
It's the Tegler Round Machiner. It is $99.90, although Andrew said that you can still get it for $79.90. Let's see what actually happens there. What do? We add the cart, view my cart. Oh, it's getting me 99.90 there.
Ah,
Oh, maybe I
Okay.
was. Yeah, still, it's not a bad price really for something that is getting some pretty rave
I've
reviews.
paid more than that for a reverb before now.
Well, exactly.
do you know?
More.
Do you know? I may have got that wrong and mixed it up with something else that was $79.99 for a special deal, and I think possibly I did, but maybe not. Maybe not. I'll find out. No,
So,
I just bought it. I just went,
Yeah.
yeah, gotta have
Yeah,
that.
it's great. I have to say,
It is.
It's getting
really
a big
good.
thumbs up from us here.
Yeah.
So that's good. Right, so talking of effects plugins, Arturia updated, shall we say, their pack of effects called FX Collection. It's up to version 4. Arturia's FX Collection version 4 is out now. Pricing will depend on how much Arturia gear you currently own. So it should be $499. It's at an introductory price of $299, but it will be substantially less depending on how much Arturia gear you've already bought, and it will, the price will reduce accordingly. So for exact pricing, log into your Arturia account and you'll be told exactly how much you can have this lovely collection of effects for. Do you remember when Arturia first dipped their toe into the effects plugins thing, and it was like 3 reverbs you can actually use, or 3 delays that you would actually use? Well, now they're up to over 40 odd different effects. What's new in FX Collection 4? Well, you've got the Rev LX24, which was previously available separately, along with the Coldfire Distortion, and Filter MS20, if I'm not mistaken, was a freebie for a short period of time. It's basically the MS20 filter that they use in their Korg plugin as well. The only really new thing in this collection in terms of actual units is the rotary effect, the CLS222. But every single plugin has had an upgrade, or most of them have anyway. Lots of different oversampling qualities have been added, 40 new presets, and an updated modulation workflow for fragments. They all now feature draggable resizing rather than just choosing a percentage, so you can just drag it and fill your screen in a much easier way. FX Collection 4 now has the accessibility functions, text-to-speech features that was previously available in the V Collection, so visually impaired producers can get text-to-speech collaboration with the tools, and every effect now is supporting all the standard plugin formats plus NKS VST3 and Mac M1s and AAXs as well, so they just broaden the compatibility. So there does seem to be a lot of under the hood updates here. When I opened up my Arturia service center yesterday, like virtually everything got an update. I haven't gone for this because I got LX24 Coldfire. I bought those myself, and MS20. I swear down that was a freebie for a while. Yeah. So I've got that. So the only new thing that I'm going to add to this in terms of units is the rotary, and I've got some rotary effects, and I'm not a big fan of rotary effects. So for now, anyway, I'm not going to bother with this one. But certainly some of the under the hood changes are nice to see. Any other users of the Arturia FX Collection here?
I am now.
I find them really good, and they are, like I said, when they first came out with their effects, it was like 3 reverbs you'll actually use, 3 delays you'll actually use, because they did the good things really well. And I have to say, the LX24, I'm a big fan of the 80s sound anyway, but that LX24 really does make things sound like 30, 40 years ago. It's very, very nice. And the Coldfire is quite a clever thing. It's pretty to look at as well. So I'm a big fan of these, but I'm not going to get this just yet because I'm not really going to get a huge amount extra for my money. But anyone else want to throw their hat in the ring here?
I just bought it.
Okay. So
yeah.
Again, did you tell them where you found it? No.
It was on my computer.
Okay.
In my room.
Have you tried any of their other stuff?
I can't remember, but there was something that was bugging me, and when I saw that video, it suddenly occurred to me what it was. And I'm changing over from the huge washing machine sized super PC to the incredibly small yet more powerful Mac Studio. And guess what? It's really difficult to squeeze a UAD card in that. And I'm going, yeah, it makes more sense, because when I go to Mac Studio, I'm going to lose access to my, well, at least direct access to my UAD card and my 244, my 480 XL, blah, 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 and all this, and all the rest of the effects that are on that. So I've just gone to the website and they go, yeah, it's going to cost you 99 quid because you bought version 4. Was it version 4? No, 9, isn't it?
No, it's because you're a V Collection.
Yeah, so I got a V Collection, and because the CS80 version 4 is still one of the best representations of an 80 yet. So they can go with it. Cool, love it.
Yeah,
bought it.
Nice one.
Getting the
Mr.
t-shirt.
Longhurst, will this find its way into your studio if it hasn't already?
No.
Okay. You contrary old thing.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to do a gym.
Tell us why, Pan Shop Robin Vincent.
Yes, Pan Shop Robin Vincent. Because I've got a shirt I don't need. And these are all the effects I need.
We did wonder whether it was an overlay or something.
Yeah, I've got so many effects, and a bit like with the whole plugins thing. I kind of got to a point where I just want to rationalize and have a few I get to know really well. I've got some hardware stuff I know really well. I have got hundreds and hundreds of effects, hundreds, and I get given them. I get lots and lots of stuff given to me, and I just can't sort through them. So I'm just being a bit more curational about what I'm using for effects. So whilst I get this, and I'm sure that for people that have a large library of stuff or like that way of working, it's a good thing. It's just I just look at it almost in horror, going, how would I make my mind up? So I'm sort of going back to a simpler way of working, getting to learn several things, a very few things really well, like the Rail Machiner. That's it. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a great thing, but I'm not going to find out.
Fair enough. Jim, I mean, you were waxing lyrical about the reverb we just spoke about, the Rail Machiner, but does any of this appeal?
Oh, well, it didn't, because I thought it was like $500, and then you've just advised me to check my upgrade price, and I'm like, oh, it's only €99. But I don't know. I'm not sure I actually need any of it. I mean, what was it? The cold fire thing.
Yeah.
That kind of very much like an analog heat in sort of plugin form. Which obviously I've got that covered anyway. I mean, my question would be, how good are the compressors really? Like the LA2A and the 1176 emulations, because that's kind of like that's something I do struggle to get. The IK multimedia ones are actually really good, and I would have ditched IK if it wasn't for them being actually really quite good. So I've got those. But yeah, it's one of those things. I just want to point out, Kent, Ben in the chat has pointed out that if you own those UAD plugins, you should be able to get the native ones for free. If they have a native version, you should be able to just get those in your account and just run them on your Mac Studio.
Well, there's still a bit of controversy between me and UAD anyway, because I'd bought one of Republica's ones initially, and then when I plugged it in, I found that all of the plugins were available.
Right.
And I went, yay.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it took them 4 years to work it out before they turned them off.
Right.
So a lot of projects stopped working the way I used to like them. So
that was a dark day.
You fire it up and you go, oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
All my Pultecs have gone. It's fine. It's fine. It's £99.
Yeah. I mean,
you get a lot for your money.
Yeah.
At that price anyway.
And
what are
it's
the
all part of
compressors
the package.
like? Does anyone have any opinion on like the...
I wouldn't want to say, because I'm not experienced with the hardware, so I couldn't really, I wouldn't want to.
Neither am I, but only with the virtual hardware, which I know quite well.
Whereas I am, I use a lot. I use a lot of the, they sound okay. Their representations of compressors are pretty good. I've got to say, they've always been pretty good, and I understand these are even better. But I have other compressors. You see, there you go. You're making me think again now. You said about compressors, but no, I can live without them. I've got so much else.
Yeah.
Although I may be digging in and getting them at some point without telling anyone, so I don't look like a complete twonk.
I mean,
do you like them, Rob?
I like them, but I'm really not an expert on effects. I mean, I've only got two hardware effects, and they're not even plugged in. I will throw on, like I was doing something recently, and I know I needed some reverb, and it was a kind of an 80s track, so I just pulled out the LX24, threw that on. I thought it sounds great, don't need to worry about anything else. If I think something needs a little bit of compression or a limiter on there or something else, I tend to, I hate this, I mean, I've got all of these, but I tend to just go for like the stock Logic stuff, because it's kind of good. It just kind of works.
The Logic stuff is good, to be fair. It's very underrated.
It doesn't really require me to do much to it, but I'm no expert in that field. So if it sounds good to my ear, then that's fine. And I'm sure that if somebody with a proper ear sat down and said, oh no, you don't want that, you want this, and you want this setting, and you want to do that. And for me, what I do is, like, I'll throw a channel strip on. Again, if the stuff that I'm doing particularly has an 80s kind of sound to it, then I'll choose an SSL channel strip to, just because I know that's what was being used back then. So that's it, and I'll turn things until it sounds a little better than it did before. And if it doesn't sound better, I take it off and maybe try something else. I'm terrible. I'm a real Luddite when it comes to effects. If it sounds good, that kind of works for me.
That sounds right, actually.
I think the thing with hardware, especially hardware effects, compressors, EQs, reverbs, whatever, delays, the hardware versions of them, they the character changes depending on the temperature, how long they've been on, and all that kind of stuff. And there are some things that just work. There's I had it stolen, but I'm still hoping to get it back. I had a George Massenburg stereo EQ, and I also have one of the George Massenburg 2-channel mic pre's, and they're horribly expensive, horribly. And for years and years and years, I didn't like Neumann U87 mics. I just didn't like the character of them. I just didn't get it. Everyone was raving about them. I just thought, not really my thing. And then I plugged one into the Massenburg mic pre, and it's like a whole room had just been lifted. This veil was lifted, and this thing sounded amazing. The clarity and the detail was and the warmth was just amazing. So it's something which some plugins do well, but others, for some things it just doesn't work. And so I think in this case, I mean, I am now thinking about now thinking about the compressors and EQ they've got on there. Yeah, I am thinking about that.
I mean, I'm waiting to see what, because I've now got an Antelope Audio interface, and they've got their own DSP plugins, which I'm actually using now. It's like a 1073 and a LA2A on this mic, virtual ones. And they're really good, but they announced, they really cocked this up. They announced at NAMM that they were going to do native plugins, and then just radio silence. They didn't give any details, and they've not mentioned it since. They even pulled down the web page that announced the native plugins. So there's just been like nothing since. And NAMM was like, 6 weeks ago or whatever, or longer. And yeah, so I'm kind of waiting to see what their move is, because if they do go fully native with their plugins, they're going to be on a subscription, unless you've probably got, I own all their plugins because of a deal I got with this interface. It's got like 90 different preamps and compressors and EQs and stuff. There's no real delay. There's no delays or reverbs, except there's a reverb built into the interface for monitoring. But yeah, so I'm waiting to see what they do, because if their stuff sounds really, really good, sort of, proper sort of, beyond UAD quality. And yeah, if they do a native thing that's as good as their DSP for a reasonable price, then I might go that way. I'll just have to see.
Well, there is a good selection to be had for a rather decent price, although my price isn't as good as any of yours, and I guess that's because a lot of my Arturia stuff is NFR, and therefore it doesn't qualify. So I do try and buy stuff, like I bought the LX24 because it's just like, I've got to have that. I know it's coming in the next collection, but I've got to have it. But it's not enough, I'm afraid. But you can get at least 200 euros off starting price. And then, say, depending on your package, it's a pretty good value for money collection. But I'd rather spend my money on synths than effects, and that's just kind of what I do. But it's nice to know that I'm not the only person that just throws effects on until something sticks and sounds good, and then they walk away. If I called out one of my projects and put it on screen, I'd have loads of people saying, "You don't want to use that. You're using that in the wrong position, and the signal chain is the path, and all this and that." No. Sounds good, that's fine. I'll print it like that. So that's Arturia's FX Collection 4. It's out now. Go to the website and log into your account, and you'll find out your price there. Right. Let's do... let's do the final bit of hardware, shall we say. Hardware news. It's got to be done, I'm afraid. And this is the news that... our lovely friends over at Behringer have announced the third and final part of their Moog Sound Studio homage, shall we say? We'll call it an homage this week. We often call it other things, but we'll call it an homage. This is basically a subharmonicon. This is the Spice, announced shortly after the release, or the final release into actual shops of Edge, which was last week or the week before. Goes along with Crave, so now you can have the 3 units themselves. Now this is currently undergoing final beta testing, hopefully going to production soon. That's Behringer soon, with a Spice price of $249 max.
Wow.
So there you go. So obviously significantly cheaper than the Moog subharmonicon on its own. How it compares sonically, I don't know. Having looked at them kind of side by side, they're very, very similar. But, not an out-and-out rip-off. And some good... I mean, I kind of liked what I was hearing from the Edge last week, although the colour kind of made my head ache a little bit. I was hearing some interesting stuff, and if this is your thing, then these 3, and I guess there'll be a tabletop unit so you can put them all in, in a vertical stack. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Any thoughts on this before we swiftly move on to some other topics? I'm not imagining there's many takers for this.
we can't hear it, so it's difficult to make any judgment.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
it's Behringer that are equally hated and loved. I suspect there's an awful lot of people like them, but will never say so because they get gear cheap. Who knows? When we can hear it, then
then we can make a judgment. Absolutely.
But it looks as you would expect, really.
I look forward to Starsky Car's inevitable comparison between this and the Meg.
Yeah.
Indeed, I'm sure there'll be a number of those, and I look forward to seeing either. Who's the guy that they brought back for the Edge demonstration with the baseball cap? Who I hadn't seen. I thought he'd been like quietly bumped off somewhere. It wasn't Dan with his quiff, was it?
No.
But yeah, I look forward to hearing what this sounds like, and then make some sort of thing about it. Kent, anything to add?
Well, we're not allowed to swear on this channel, are we?
Oh,
it's monetized. So no, two words. Don't care.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Well, I'm sure we'll come back to the Spice once we've got an audio demo and a bit more information about that. So what we've got, just under half an hour left. We've got a few other things I want to talk about. I'm going to do, because I have the controls, and you can't shove me off them, so...
Happy birthday.
Well, yeah, happy birthday. Before we do that, I do want to say that it is 1 year ago today that we learnt of the passing of the great Dave Smith. So I just wanted to mark that occasion, somber as it is. It's been a year since he passed. So I keep forgetting that he was at Super Booth last year, and doing the rounds and entertaining and making everyone smile wherever he went. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, he's no longer with us. But his legacy continues, thankfully, and will do, I'm sure, for many years to come. Just wanted to mention that. Yes, another anniversary that happened at the beginning of this week, shall we say, just for expediency, there was the 40th anniversary of the release of none other than the greatest synthesizer of all time, because I can say that, the DX7 was released, according to my information, on the 29th of May, although that was a Sunday, but they do things differently in Japan. But it was definitely the end of May of 1983 that it was released. And 40 years ago, which is just bonkers when you sort of think it was that far ago.
God, who wrote that article? Terrible.
Yeah, shockingly biased. I did stick up an article. So if you are interested in a little bit of history about how the DX7 came into being, and I do go over some of the advertising and the development of the technology through John Chowning at Stanford, at Karma, all the way through the Kent's shuddering now. He's seeing a picture of the GS1.
Not burning.
Not burning, yes, actually working. And then, of course, then the CEs, and then, of course, we then eventually end up with the DX7. And we talk a little bit about all of those sorts of things, and then I offer some links to how you can maybe get the DX7 sound today. There's a picture of the Centennial Edition, and, of course, where we are at the modern-day kind of interpretation with Yamaha's Montage and Modi X. So I just wanted to raise that awareness. There is something else that's DX7 related, which I'll come on to at the end. But if we could just for a few minutes put all the jokes and the digs at Rob aside, I wanted to kind of get some honest viewpoints on the impact of the DX7 from each of your points of view. And I'm going to start with Mr. Kent Spong.
Oh, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. Any thoughts? I mean, do you remember when it came out? Because you're clearly old enough. What did you have experiences of playing these?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
What are your memories of that time of your life?
It was massive impact. It was huge. It was everywhere, and it was on everything, and it had this new, different kind of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were great. I borrowed one with I think it was the PF88 weighted piano that they had roughly about the same time, and I had them for a couple of weeks, and I played the living hell out of both of them.
Yeah.
It was great. It's a lovely machine. It is lovely. It's beautifully built. It's got fantastic keyboard action on it.
Yes.
So good that even Korg borrowed it, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
It's brilliant. I don't like working on them.
Which is why you gave one to me to sort out.
Yeah, anybody else
Still
can
here.
have them. That's fine. Everybody else love them. That's fine by me. But don't ask me. Well, I've got to do Ty's one, haven't I? So,
Yes.
but they were a great keyboard, and they are their own cornerstone in synth history.
Yeah,
they certainly are. Absolutely.
I mean, it was, as I said in the article. When I have discussions with people. I like to kind of toss that one in and say, what do you think what were groundbreaking, game-changing synthesizers that really, shoved us on a different path? The Mini Moog is absolutely up there. And I say, probably the next one was the DX7 because we swerved over in a completely different direction. We hadn't had,
but I mean, if you heard an audio clip of a Mini, you wouldn't know immediately if it was a Mini. It could be it could be a 55, it could be a 3C or something like that. But the DX7, like the PPG as well, sort of like
could be the door.
Boom. It could be. I was trying to avoid. I was trying not to go there. Fucking hell, Jim. Yeah. Oh, there he is. Yeah. B5. It was instantly recognisable.
Yeah.
It was like, if anything, it's more iconic from that point of view than any of the other synths out there.
I mean, I think when we define iconic, define game changing, that's where you need to get into the detail. And the Mini Moog was groundbreaking because it took the power of those big modulars and stuck it into something you could put under your arm and take to a gig, something that would cut through live and in a mix and make the keyboard, made the keyboard player a much more prominent member of the band. They could actually have solos. They could, it was worth doing. The Prophet 5 is up there, I think, in terms of game changers. The DX7 took it sonically. I mean, yes, the interface wasn't a patch on anything else, but sonically it gave us a palette of sounds that up until then had been the exclusive realm of science labs in universities, or people with tons and tons and tons of money who bought the Synclavier, which of course the Synclavier sub-licensed the FM technology from Yamaha, who had licensed it from Stanford. So
it must be one of the most successfully selling machines from launch.
And
of all time, really.
Until the Micro Korg, or was it the M1? I think the M1 might have overtaken the DX7, then the Micro Korg, I think, then took on the mantle. But at the time, because
it's a
Yamaha,
fair old distance there.
Yeah, I mean, even Kakahashi-san at Roland said he'd spoken to Stanford about this patent, but he said, no, Yamaha are the best people to have this because they have the means of production to mass produce the chips, and they have the factories and the setup, which Roland didn't have at the time. So, it kind of fell into the right hands, I guess, in that respect. Mr. Longhurst, fond memories of the DX7?
Very much. I mean, curious memories. I was using one on a session in August of 1983, or maybe slightly earlier, and it was the first time I'd seen one. And we had a band in who'd bought in a Moog Opus. And they were doing a track which needed a sort of brass thing, which it kind of did okay. But they kept on having to do multiple takes to get the dynamics. They had to turn it down and turn it up and put a slightly different attack on it. And they were doing this, and it took forever. And this DX turned up, and I just remember pulling up one of the brass sounds and just going, what, you mean like this? And it changed everything. I think one of the things it did initially was people had access to sounds that at the time sounded real. Guitars, electric pianos, bells, but there was a lot of stuff. But there was a lot of stuff it did that sounded really good. Even the strings, they were terrible, but they were more real than an awful lot of the stuff that was there. They sounded more real. The other thing which it did, it came in, of course, at the birth of MIDI.
Yes.
So everyone that had a MIDI setup had to have one, and as Kent said, the keyboard action was amazing, absolutely amazing. So yes, it was a game changer. Everyone had one. Very few people got to know them well enough. They were usually at the front or back end of a MIDI chain, which was sort of 2 or 3 long to start with, because that's all there was. But they were amazing, and using them together with samples, I used an E2 with a DX, and I'm trying to think what else it was, probably an MKS80 or something like that. And we chained them together to do an orchestral track where we're using orchestral samples from the EMU, and then putting in this other stuff behind it just to give it that dynamic. And when I've listened to it recently, it doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound great. But it doesn't sound bad, and certainly it sounds better than almost anything else that was being done at that time that was claiming to be orchestral. So it's a game changer. It continues to be, and I've still got my 5, as you have yours, DX5. I think it's an amazing technology, still sort of underexplored, and I love it. And yes, it's an absolute game changer. So 40 years, hurrah!
Yeah, indeed. I mean, to take your point about MIDI, you're absolutely right. It got in at the outset. Obviously, it wasn't the first keyboard synthesizer to have MIDI. That was Pro 600.
The sequential.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple of Rolands in there as well. What Yamaha got right about MIDI was they went way beyond just the synthesizer. Everything they did from that moment on had MIDI, and you could, by 1984, you could have a DX7, a TX7, a KX88, a TX816, a QX1, all of these things, and all of a sudden, because you have to remember, 1984, 1985, we didn't have PCs, we didn't have, desktop computing for music production was almost non-existent, not completely, but almost non-existent. And now with those, you could have a drum machine and a sequencer and a synthesizer, and even an effects unit.
And multiple synths that all worked. And it was the first time. So you saw a lot of people out there touring. There were people like the Yellow Jackets. There was Gabriel. All of these different people touring, whose keyboard players had suddenly racks and racks of this stuff using QX1s to sequence live. And that meant there was a sound that was the 80s. There's the Yellow Jackets. There was High Crime, Al Jarreau. All those kinds of people were using this kit, and so it was the sound of the 80s. It really was the sound.
But it was
that
80s. Enablement that now musicians, not just rock stars, pop stars, and people in those kind of branches of the industry, but people like you and me at the ground level, we saved up a bit, we could get a MIDI drum machine and a MIDI sequencer and a MIDI synthesizer and be making multi-track music.
Do you remember their computer? Was it the
CX5M?
CX5. That was cheaper than anyone expected. And then they had the DX9, the DX21s. So the entry point for all of this was low. They really just went in and grabbed the market.
Because the DX7,
Roland were actually quite late to the game with that.
Yeah.
Actually, when the 6 came out, all right, we'll put some MIDI on it, but there was an awful lot of stuff that didn't at the time. So
DX7 price as well. I mean, in the US it was $1,999, I believe. I think you could get it for about $1,800. In the UK it was nearer $1,300-1,400 with the exchange rate. Yeah. And back then, say £1,400 for a 16-note polyphonic synthesizer with aftertouch and breath control and patches that you could swap in and out with the cartridge.
And it was the whole aftertouch. It was the whole package.
It
was the whole package. Yeah,
absolutely.
So it was a good thing.
Yeah,
it was a good thing and ground changing.
Jim, any thoughts on the DX7?
Yeah, I mean, all jokes aside, so what a couple of people in the chat have mentioned about Brian Eno.
Yes.
And the fact that I think it's one of those instruments that is only really sort of limited by your own imagination. There's so much you can actually do with it, and there's a huge palette of sounds to be got from that. And FM synthesis on the whole is still capable of creating some of the most modern sounds you'll find today. I mean, I absolutely love my Digatone, and the thing can be absolutely raucous and do the best bass noises ever, and it's just brilliant. So, I know I joke about FM a lot and doorbells and stuff, but I wouldn't be without it. It's an essential part of my actual sound palette. But yeah, and I think Brian Eno was just one of these people, because that was what was around at the time, and he threw himself fully into it, programming through the letterbox, so to speak.
Well, he had one of those Jellinghouse controllers that opened up everything, so he was doing a lot of stuff that way, but he was really pushing it for sure.
Yeah, and he was able to coax the most beautiful tones from it. And,
Well, I was doing, in my research for this, I've always been a massive fan of Eno's Apollo album, and I had always read and heard from various places that a lot of that was DX7. But when I looked into it, the actual recording of that happened. It actually finished in June of '83, and this only came out in May. Now, I know that I don't know what the situation was back then, whether Yamaha would release things to people prior to their launch like they do now. So I said, rather than cause a ruckus, I'm not going to say anything. And a lot of people say it was a CS80 that was doing things like Ascent, that classic. Kind of droney track, which is just sort of forever etched into our memory with those visuals of the Moonlanders and stuff. But yeah, I mean, what he was doing, so you can get those. There's a famous collection of just 4 Eno patches that I think he gave away. I say gave away. He had them printed in a magazine, and you had to go to your DX7 and program them in. But thankfully, the ones of the internet, you can get them pretty much everywhere now. But 1 or 2 of those sound a little bit Apollo-esque, I have to say. But yeah, I mean, absolutely a great exponent of that technology. But yeah, if you want to read more about that, it's on gearnews.com, 40 years of the DX7. There's a little bit of information there. Have a giggle, have a laugh, leave some comments, rate it, do whatever you want with there. But I just thought it was worth giving a shout out to a synthesizer that really did kind of change the landscape. And yes, I know I'm biased and I do love them a lot. But I think it's worth noting. And talking of DX7s, I know that Andy Synth Addict has just picked up a DX1. DX7 Mark 1. I bet you wish you had picked up a D. Come and get this one if you can fit it in your suitcase. But there are still people that are producing sounds for the DX7, and one of them is a chap here. Let me just bring up his video. So he goes under the name of Off the Matrix, and this is about a 4.5 minute video, so I'm only going to just kind of show a few bits of this. But he's been spending a lot of time on and off just kind of refining a set of 64 patches for the Mark 1 DX7, and of course they can also be used in things like Arturia's DX7V. They can be imported into things like the Modi X and the Montage. They can also be used on Ploeg's Chipsynth OPS7 and Dexed and whatever kind of DX7 type clone that you might have. But let's have a quick listen to some of these. Stop it there because it does go on. And so what he's doing is he's taking factory patches and then reinterpreting them in his own way. And certainly that first horn one was just like, what the hell? That's
wow.
Yeah. I was
yeah.
I've got to listen to this. And yeah, I mean, I bought these. They're only $8 for this pack of patches.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm getting those.
$8. That should be the tagline for the show. I'm buying that. Let's bring this up on screen.
4 bankrupt men is what.
So I only found out about this by just lurking on, on a YamahaMusicians.com, their forum, and somebody brought this up in one of the rooms, and I went and checked out the video, and I thought, wow, that's... He's playing on the fact that it's taken him like over a period of 20 years to kind of polish these sounds on and off. He's not been doing it for a whole 20 years. It's just like he does something, comes away and does some more. But they're literally $8 for this pack of sounds. It's 64 patches. And yeah, I mean, there's all sorts in there. You know, you've got your typical DX7 type sounds, but also, you know, so even the kick drum and the snare sound really, really good. Harps, bagpipes, clarinets, horns, synths, strings. Yeah, it's just a cracking set of patches. And you can use these on hardware DX7s or DX5s or DX1s. You can use them in software versions as long as it interprets DX7 SysX. These are really, really, really good. So I thought, well, I'll just give those a bit of a plug.
Nice,
before
fine.
we quickly move on to anything else, any comments on those? Did you like what you heard? Not that you heard much, but did you get the chance to review it? And any thoughts?
I had a quick listen, and yeah, like you, blown away.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I did with the 5 back in the whatever. You just take it apart and reconstruct it. The strings I've got on the DX5 sound amazing. They sound really analog. I mean, you know, really, you know, moving around, you know, the LFOs and all the sort of movement you can get just sounds astonishing, absolutely astonishing. And that bright sort of it is all gone. You can get rid of all of that with just a little thought and playing around with the algos. So, and then I listened to this and I just thought, yeah, this is a guy that's just worked his socks off to get these sounding as they are. And there's some wonderful, wonderful sounding patches in there, really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the best patches I've heard, and I've got a lot of patches. And I was just going through those, and some of them sound just fantastic. Jim, any comments?
I like that horn.
You like the horn?
Yeah, I like the horn. The other ones were sort of like, yeah, you know. But I like
give that video a watch and listen to some of that stuff. I initially demoed this on what I think is the best DX7 plugin, which is the chip synth OPS7. For me, that's as close as you get to the hardware. And they were just sounding amazing without any effects on them whatsoever. Really, really good.
Check out the strings and check out the guitar as well. We cut off just before the guitar. They sound a lot, you know, you have an expectation of level of expectation about what the DX is going to sound like. And he just kills it. He just blows that completely out of the water. You go, really? That?
Yeah.
You know,
very good.
It's good. It's a good thing.
I want to quickly move on because we've only got a few more minutes, and I've got to get some stuff in here that I said I would definitely do. Our good friend Mark Barnes, who Jim and I met up with and spent some very memorable and pleasant times at Super Booth with a few weeks ago with his lovely wife Cheryl. Mark has created a new bank of sounds for the Modal Electronics Cobalt 8, and I'm just trying to get the video up here. Let's have a quick listen. It's a long demonstration video, but we'll play some of these just for you all here right now. It's the intro music. Here we go. Let's go. So there we go. That is Mark Barnes's 50 presets for Modal Electronics Cobalt 8. It's called Radioactive Volume 1. And I'm just going to try and get the web page up, because if you have a Cobalt 8, and this will work on the 8, the 8M, and the 8X, it's all fully compatible with all three. If you have one of those, this pack costs you a mere £6.99. Which is nothing for 50 presets from Mark Barnes, who does know how to program a good sound. There's all sorts of stuff in there. There's pads, pianos, synth guitars, brass, basses, synth leads, arpeggio patterns, and soundscapes, all packed in there. $6.99 is an introductory price, and we get that across as well up until June the 25th. So you've got a few weeks to get a whole load of them. Watch that whole video and get a really good idea of what's going on there. The sequences aren't shown apparently in the demo, but lovely stuff from Mark Barnes. And of course it does pay to let everyone know that he does lots of patches for lots of synths. JDXA, Wavestate, Op6, Hydrasynth. His Hydrasynth stuff is superb, especially the deluxe stuff, using both of those layers. Called Wavestate. We've got Mod Wave stuff in there as well. More Hydrasynth. All stuff going on there, and they're all ridiculously cheap. I don't think there's anything over 20 quid there. I think 90. Oh no, there you go. All volumes of the Korg Wavestate for 30 quid, and they're 33.99 for the 6 to 10. They're just really, really good sounds. He does some amazing work. So if you have any of those synths, I suggest you pop over to markbarnessounds.com. Fair rolls off the tongue, that one, and go and give him some support and send him some love and buy some of his patches, because he's a lovely, lovely bloke. So yeah, links in the chat. Thank you, Andrew. And there was another patch.
Can I be controversial just quickly?
Go on quickly.
If those two patches were the advert for him as a programmer, I wouldn't look at anything else. I hated them both.
Oh, okay.
Both of those just I didn't. It sounded like a bit like my.
Watch the whole video.
But I know he's done some wonderful other stuff. It's just those first two. They were kind of
different strokes.
Did you like them?
I like them. Yes, I like big paddy sounds anyway. I'm all about pads.
Didn't. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry
horses
about
for
that.
courses. No,
Mark
not
Barnes
at all.
is a lovely man, though, and
he is.
His collections are great. He is a great programmer. Just didn't like those two.
Well, that's just the first two. Cut the guy some slack.
There is 48.
Yeah. There is another bank of sounds out, but this one. Now I'm going to have to be. The comments will come flooding in here. We do need to show Drew how to do horizontal camera, not vertical camera.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Because
huge bugbear. I'm like, portrait video. God no.
He doesn't do any talking in his videos, but I tell you what, Drew Schlesinger knows how to program a patch on a synthesizer, and this is his collection: 100 new sounds for the Arturia MiniFreak that will also work on the MiniFreak V plugin as well. So let's have a listen. He's just whizzing through these kind of one. That's nice. I like that. Anyway, so I'm conscious of the time we've gone over already. Hybrid Synthetics is available now. You can get it from Drew's own website, but it's also being sold over at Plugin Guru, which is who are the makers, shall I say, of Unify, which is a fantastic tool. I was very lucky to win a copy on Ranz's show last year, and I'm very glad that I did. But Hybrid Synthetics is out now. It's 100 patches for the MiniFreak, both software and hardware, and also Unify patches in there as well, which means it takes advantage of all the things that Unify adds to it. So you can, there's lots of great things, and it's a bargain at only $22.50 US for that. And interestingly, this is the first commercial bank of sounds that Drew Schlesinger has created and sold separately since 1987, he told me. 1987. Now, the thing is, Drew Schlesinger, and he has been on this show, and he's a fantastic guy. You will probably own a synthesizer with some Drew Schlesinger sounds in. Whether you know it or you don't, you probably own either a software or a hardware instrument with some of Drew's sounds in, because he's been in the game, as Richard Hilton so nicely says, since the Stone Age. He has been there since the dawn of time. Those two instruments just there, Korg Prophecy, Korg Z1, full of Drew's stuff. So therefore, if you have the software version of the Prophecy, you have some Drew stuff in your machines at home. He is a brilliant sound designer, and maybe not so great with a video camera. So we'll have words for the next one. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that, because the MiniFreak is a stunning instrument. I still can't get over how good it sounds for something so small. And that's a great bank of sounds. So please do go and show him some support and buy those. And that, ladies and germs, brings us to the end of the show. We are completely out of topics. We are over time. My bladder is about to go bang, because this stuff, if I drink squash all show, it's fine. But beer just goes right through me. So I'm going to draw things to a close. Otherwise, I'm going to have an accident. Or I might just refill the pint glass. Anyway, gentlemen.
Mute first, please.
Yes, quite. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to Jim. Yeah, thank you to Jim. And you sample that in more ways than one. Thank you to Jim for stepping in and filling Ben's considerable shoes. Thank you to Andrew also for coming in and just making it a lot more even on the screen. Otherwise, it just looks a bit odd. So, and thank you for your shirt and for your infinite wisdom, as always. It's much appreciated. Both of you do come back soon. Hopefully next week we'll have Ben back. I don't know. We were supposed to be here. If you joined the show later on and didn't hear, Ben is otherwise engaged. I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm sure he'll tell you all about it as and when. But he's been otherwise engaged at short notice. So hopefully he'll be back next week. What does he do? The thing is, your background keeps blurring you out, Andrew, so we can't really see what's going on as soon as you move away from the camera. It's gone.
It's the dungeon behind. It's the dungeon.
The dungeon, yes, quite. Rands isn't on. Is he on tomorrow but not on next week? I think that's the case. He's on tomorrow but not on the 10th. I'd seem to recall. But something will be going on. Because I think on the 10th he's off, but Henrik is doing one of his old people synth type things. I can't remember what he calls it now. But he's got some interesting people. I believe that is the 10th. Anyway, I'll shut up. Rands is tomorrow, according to Ian, at 2 p.m. UK time. I'm not sure if Jamie's back on Sunday. I know he's moved his stuff out. I don't know if he's set it up, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was planning to be on. But
check out GeoSynth for more information to see if Jamie is on Sunday. And then we come round. We've got, obviously, Sonic State on the Wednesday. We've got Threeport Collective for the US. Well, obviously you can watch it wherever you are in the world, but it's live, much more suited for the US folk, because it's about 2 a.m. over here when those guys goes live on a Thursday. So lots of other great shows to watch and take part in. Do go and support them and give them a like and a subscribe and a thumbs up and all of that. If you wouldn't mind doing the same for us, that'd be fantastic. Thank you again to Andrew and Jim. And Kent, my friend, thank you as always. Wonderful T-shirt. Are you doing the other door this weekend, or you can do something more synth related?
Oh, I don't know about doing synth related.
No.
do a pub?
Definitely do a pub tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. We've got to get Richard Hilton on. Richard, you've got to come on the pub tomorrow, because then we can hear you saying what you've been saying in the chat.
But is he not on tour? I thought he was on tour with Duran.
It doesn't matter. He can do that, mate. He's done that gig so many times. He can FaceTime while he's playing.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
He'll try.
He's got the muscle memory now. It's just like
Yes, indeed. I also need to say a massive thank you. So to Andy Davidson. I don't know if Andy's watching now, whether he watches on catch up. But I was asking this morning, because I've jumped into the world of Ableton Live. I'm determined now to get it and to understand it. And I was asking about controllers. Now, Kent, you're an absolute star, mate. He phoned me up at lunchtime and said, I've got an APC Mini here that you could... there it is. Because I was asking about hardware controls. No, but Andy also said, well, I've got the Mini Launchpad one. So I thought, well, here's a brilliant way of testing out which one actually suits me the best. So thank you to those gentlemen for your help. And, hopefully... I'll be getting better at Ableton Live sometime soon. Which reminds me, I was looking at some stuff on eBay, and I'm not sure if I've missed the cut-off point. It's a dangerous, dangerous game. Anyway. What's he doing?
He's doing one of those authentic plugins, isn't he?
Oh, okay.
I'm doing bladder stuff.
Oh, I see. No, I've control. I've control.
PX7.
Yeah, PX7. Well, that actually was a thing. That was an instrument. There's a
I've
propeller
got one.
heads version. Yeah. Anyway, there was the EMU thing, wasn't there, as well?
Yeah, PX7.
Anyway, on that note,
Smells of urine.
shut up! Stop talking about toilet things. I will see you along with everyone else, same time, same place next week. And I'm just going to say goodbye. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy it and do some fun stuff.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Pressure.
Under pressure.